Hello and welcome back to the Rich Alvarez Show. I am Rich Alvarez, and one of the things that I'm known for here on the internet, of course, is my love of all things Super Mario. People recognize this channel as a big Nintendo channel. Well, actually, I wasn't officially with Nintendo when I started the whole Stupid Mario Brothers thing, Stupid Mario Brothers being the show that got me where I am today. But then over the course of several, years, thanks to E3 and, talking to Jimmy Wong, and Jimmy Wong knew people at Nintendo, and I got to know Jimmy Wong a little bit, and now this channel is affiliated with Nintendo, and that's why sometimes you see us, doing reviews or doing, kind of like we incorporate Nintendo stuff into our works, like you've seen it in Let's Plays and blah, 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 blah. So, Nintendo has been a major part of this channel, even before it was officially a part of this channel. And I thought that it would be a good time, even though some of this news is kind of old, I thought it would be a good time to talk about the Super Mario movie coming from Illumination Entertainment, because it's something I have yet to talk about this, and I think that this news was it is a few months old, but I feel like a lot of it kind of went under the radar, and it wasn't really brought up in a lot of the major news circles. A lot of people depend on things like Kotaku and even on the internet, like you get all your basic, Screen Rant, Looper, all those things that seem to just flood your news feed with all their stories. Nobody's really talking about this, and I thought that as a channel that was, huge on Mario and Nintendo, I should be talking about this. So guys, in case you didn't know, Super Mario Brothers is being made by Illumination Entertainment. Of course, they made Despicable Me, and they made the new Grinch movie, and they make a lot of the 3D animated stuff. And I think their stuff is actually pretty good. And they are working side by side developing this movie with Nintendo. And more importantly, Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario and most of the older IPs in Nintendo, I think that his most recent original work was probably Pikmin. And I know that Miyamoto is, of course, involved with most of what is going on at Nintendo even today. But, of course, he is most famous for Mario and, to a slightly lesser extent, Zelda. Zelda is almost, and actually Zelda might even be more popular now than Mario because of Breath of the Wild, although I feel like worldwide more people recognize Super Mario, so I'm going to say Mario is his most popular work, and Miyamoto is fully involved in every step of this movie. In fact, Illumination originally was trying to get this animated feature out by 2020, but because Miyamoto wants to do it right, and they talked a lot about the original Super Mario Brothers live-action movie from 1993 with, Bob Hoskins, and how they didn't want to repeat those mistakes. I'm sure you guys know a lot about that. There's plenty of literature about that. There's plenty of videos about that online. But, the old 93 movie suffered from, like, a rotating merry-go-round of directors and writers that never got on the same page, and nobody was talking to Nintendo. This is completely different. Illumination is working side by side with Nintendo and Shigeru Miyamoto to deliver a Mario movie that is true to the characters and the story. And I find it interesting that they say true to the characters and the story, because, especially the older Mario games were very lacking in story for the most part. It's just a plumber, goes to this magical world called the Mushroom Kingdom to save Princess Toadstool from the evil King Koopa, or as we know him in America as Bowser. So there's really not a whole lot to that. Of course, later Mario games, like Mario 64 and especially Super Mario Sunshine, they would add so much more plot to their games with, especially Sunshine, it's in a completely different place. It's not even in the Mushroom Kingdom, and Mario and Peach go on a different adventure. And I believe that was the first time we also saw Bowser Jr. So, plenty of Mario games have expanded, but of course for me as an adult, I feel like I really wanted, Mario to evolve with me. I think that's the hope that we have for all of our favorite childhood things, is that they'll evolve with us and get more mature. Mario didn't, and that's okay. It's always kind of been for kids. But I always wish that just once Nintendo would make a more mature Mario game so that fans of, like, the original games could now play a Mario game that they could appreciate. something where Mario, is depicted a little bit more realistic. And I always saw, if they were ever going to do a Mario origin story, I always saw it as more of like a superhero thing where Mario realizes that he has these powers from another universe, and then it's his destiny to go save the princess. And then he discovers that he can shoot fireballs out of his hands, all that. Many of those elements I've actually, of course, incorporated in things like Stupid Mario Brothers and The Plumber Knight Returns, my own fan fiction, because I love the idea that Mario is this guy that never really wanted to have power or do things, and then is kind of thrust into a position of being a hero. That's how I see Mario. And most of you probably don't, but I think that. But anyways, this Illumination movie, it's going to be an hour and a half of pure story, no character, no inputs from you, the player. You're going to be watching a story about Mario saving the princess, and I'm really excited, especially with Nintendo's involvement, on what they're going to do to make this a feature-length story. I can only speculate. Look at my shirt. It's Mario and the gang on Abbey Road, little Beatles crossover. That's not important. I just wanted to point that out. What I would love beyond all is Mario and Luigi depicted as just normal plumber brothers. Actually, and if we're going to get technical, that 1993 original movie, the first 10 or 20 minutes of that movie I actually really like, when they're just plumbers in the real world, and then they're thrust into this magical world. The first 20 minutes of the original movie is actually pretty good, in my opinion. It's just when they get thrown into the Mushroom Kingdom, and the Mushroom Kingdom looks nothing like the Mushroom Kingdom from the video games, that's when the movie goes bad. Because they're in Dino Hatton, they're not even really in the Mushroom Kingdom. They make one little reference to the Mushroom Kingdom because of all the fungus in there, but it's not really called the Mushroom Kingdom. The world they go to is Dino Hatton, which is an alternate reality from our own, and there's desert, and there's one big city. It's dumb. The rest of the movie after that is dumb, but the way that movie started out was really good. And I feel like that's still the way you want to present these characters, that Mario and Luigi are your average Joes, because when Miyamoto created Mario for Donkey Kong in 1981, Mario was just your average Joe carpenter back then, who had to rise up to take down the great ape that is Donkey Kong to save his girlfriend Pauline from his evil clutches. At least that's what, we were told back then. But Mario was made to be, in Miyamoto's own words, Mario was made to be an everyman that we could all relate to, who was thrust into this epic world. And I think that even though we didn't really get to see his character transition from that to what he became in Mario Brothers, because, there was no story in video games back then, to just play a new game, I really would love to see that transition. In fact, if the first half of this animated Mario movie could be Mario having to take down Donkey Kong to save Pauline, I'll be sound as a pound. And then after, he's a hero in the eyes of the city for having, save Pauline, and, he won't kill Donkey Kong, of course, he'll subdue him or something. Then that's when he realizes that there's this other world of the Mushroom Kingdom that he then has to go to. I don't know, you see where I'm going with this? I've always seen Mario as kind of a superhero origin story, and I would love it if they did that. That would be rad. So anyways, let me get all the details out here. So again, the movie is coming out in 2022, 3 years from now, because they're really taking their time with this movie. Shigeru Miyamoto is completely involved, as is, the major people at Nintendo. Illumination is doing it. Of course, they've done Despicable Me. And one of their goals, they said explicitly, is to make it better than the 1993 film that we have. And guys, I'm super excited for this. I can't wait. Even if it feels like an hour and a half cutscene of just Mario taking down Bowser or whatever, that's still a huge improvement. And it still just gets me excited, especially after we've seen the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog. And I know that they say they're going to improve the character model of Sonic the Hedgehog. But guys, let's admit, let's tell ourselves the truth here. That's not the only problem with that trailer, and that's not going to be the only problem in the movie. They could make Sonic look just like Sonic from the video games. Sonic is not really supposed to be in our world. He lives in a kind of a different world where sometimes in the games there are humans, but it's not really Earth. There's the Chaos Emeralds, and there's Knuckles, and there's Tails, and I think that movie, Sonic the Hedgehog, really should have been made CG. So I'm very disappointed that they went the whole, a cartoon character in the live action world route. Dumb. I'm very much excited for this Mario movie. A big part of why I'm excited is because Illumination is doing it, and it will be a completely CGI 3D film. And that is what we want. Now, will they make the story good? Again, with Nintendo involved, it's likely that the story will be good. But I wish I was writing the movie. Selfish of me, I know. But I have so many ideas I'd love to put in that Mario movie. But, not this time. I can make my own, I guess. But, I already have. I have 10 years of me making Mario stuff that I guess I can fall back to. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to go to questions now. Thank you for letting me rant on like that. Hey, I had less ums and uhs this time. Didn't you notice? I guess it's because this is a subject I know a little bit more about. I don't know. Whoo! Jordan Sick. Jordan NSC says, what? A Mario movie? Yes, a Mario movie. Sorry, I'm laughing at these comments that I can't say. Mario Fan 9000 says, I can't wait for the Mario movie. Jojo Linkawin says, I hope one day that Rich would make a stupid Mario Land series. That would be cool. Well, again, I'll never say never. I may, in fact, have to return to Stupid Mario Brothers series one day, but we'll see. Dylan Ryman says, hi, Richie. If they were to pick a live-action Mario, would you be a good choice for the part? Of course, I've played Mario, but, I'm 50% Italian, Italian-American, and the other half is a bunch of other stuff. I would imagine Mario being someone from, like, New York, preferably Brooklyn, who has that natural Brooklyn accent and is of Italian descent. Now, I can certainly fake a Brooklyn accent, but I have a feeling that I would not be anyone's first choice to play Mario in a Hollywood film. Do I think I could do it? I don't know. You tell me. I've played Mario for years on this channel, and if you think I'm a good Mario there, then maybe. Of course, I've always done the video game, it's a Mario! I've always done the video game thing, when I think that if you're doing a realistic Mario voice, then I actually think that Bob Hoskins in 1993 did a pretty decent job of kind of being what I thought Mario should sound like in real life, which is, hey, Luigi, is that thick Brooklyn voice, That's how you do Mario, because Mario is supposed to be an immigrant. He's not really supposed to be he's supposed to be descended from immigrants. He wasn't actually supposed to be an immigrant. So I love Charles Martinet, but I think that the hoo-ha, the super Italian accent was kind of the wrong way to go. Call me crazy, but I really think he needs to have that Brooklyn. Hey, what are we doing here? We're plumbers. He needs to have that kind of voice, in my opinion. Again, this is all just my opinion. Colton Brantley says, "Let's go." The Observant Nerd says, wait, 3D or live action? It's going to be completely CGI, so not live action at all. Feathered One says, Pikmin, for some reason. I think because I mentioned Pikmin earlier. Let's see. The Observant Nerd says, sounds neat, but I'm still scared. Cool. Jojo Linkman says, I got the DVD of the live action movie, haven't watched it in years. Time to watch it again, because there are good moments in it, I think. Dylan Ryman says, you and your friends act your parts well, and when you dress as Mario, you look and have the voice to play him. Well, I appreciate that. But again, my voice in a Hollywood film, I would even opt to do it more Brooklyn than like natural Italian. Feather One says, I wonder what the plot will be. Me too. I'm on my tippy toes, waiting for that plot to release. Diddy Kong versus Luigi says, hey Rich, hello. Doug Crane says, I know who should play Mario. Ha. Okay. Dylan Ryman says, I wish Super Mario Bros. Series was on DVD. Me too, but unfortunately, thanks to rights and licensing issues, I'm not allowed to sell it on DVD. Sucks, I know. Marty Man says, am I late? And I don't know when you typed that, because I'm behind our comments, but I would say you probably weren't that late. Jojo says, knowing Illumination, the movie will have Easter eggs to Despicable Me, and that's the only thing I'm most afraid of. I wouldn't be afraid of that. I would say that them teaming up with Nintendo would probably discourage them from connecting this to any of their previous films. But if there is like little things in the background that allude to like Despicable Me or anything, that's okay. I hide things in my own films to things I've done that aren't connected at all, like putting the monster mower in Stupid Mario Brothers and stuff like that. So I understand when a creator wants to like make little allusions. If there is Despicable Me stuff, in the Mario movie, it won't be canon. You know, don't think of it like, oh, it's in the same universe. It'll just be little Easter eggs, just little fun things that they threw in there to be like, that's from Despicable Me. But I wouldn't think of anything past that as, you know, whatever. Diddy Kong vs. Luigi says, Paper Mario is what you're thinking about. It's far from edgy, but is what I would call a more mature take on the Mario series. And I would agree with you to a point, but the characters are made out of paper, so it's hard for me to take that very seriously. Good game, though. Anyways, Doug Crane says, I'll petition to get Richie cast as Mario. No. I'm sure, because it's 100% CG, I'm sure they will just have Charles Martinet do it. I would be very surprised if they didn't. So I would expect the voice of Charles Martinet, the voice that we've been used to for, 20 plus years, to be the voice of Mario. Again, if I was making the movie, I would have that Brooklyn accent. But I know that they'll probably want to keep it brand friendly, and Mario has had that more Italian, direct immigrant voice. So that's probably what it'll be. Jojo says, what you're describing, Richie, is Dragon Ball Z. I love Dragon Ball Z, and I love Dragon Ball. A lot of people talk about Dragon Ball Z. I might even like Dragon Ball better than Dragon Ball Z. For all 12 of you who have actually watched the original Dragon Ball, or read the original Dragon Ball before Dragon Ball Z came out. Observant Nerd says, I love Super Paper Mario. Yeah, good game. Pingas Studio says, plot twist, this is another series he is making. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referring to, if you were talking to something I was talking about or whatever, but I don't know. Oh no, I've lost my spot. This is what happens when I'm oh, here we go, I found it. Cool. Marty Man says, I think an animated Mario movie would be better than the live action one we had decades ago. Speaking of animated Mario, how is episode 2 of Stupid Mario Animated coming along? It's not, I'll be honest. I really wanted to make an animated Mario show, Stupid Mario Animated. I think that first episode got an okay amount of views, but for the amount of money I had to spend on paying the guy to animate it, it was not going to work out. And he ultimately did say that he would accept not as much as I was originally going to pay him to do the second episode, but it's like, based on the performance of the first one, I couldn't in good conscience have him continue, because I knew that the series was just going to head to like 10,000 views an episode, which is, in YouTube ad money these days, that's like $4 an episode. When I have to pay him $400 an episode, that's absolutely not worth it. So unfortunately, I think that animation is just not something I can afford to do on the channel right now, but I would have loved to kept going with it. Feathered One says, Thousand Year Door was cool. Diddy Kong vs. Luigi says it's going to be cringy. Poker face, culture references, pretty boy plumbers, fart jokes, and poor attempts at sad moments is what the movie's probably going to be. I really doubt it. I really doubt it, especially with how involved Nintendo is. I don't think they're going to want it to go that route, but who knows? It could be that. I really hope it's not that. Widemouth says, hopefully Miyamoto will make sure the movie is done right. Yeah, I think he will. I'm going to have faith in this movie, because I just cannot deal with the stress of having another bad movie of something I love. Jojo says, Mario's hero name was Jumpman, and he's faced DK's grandfather, and Mario's only like 24. Was he like 16 when he faced DK's grandpa? Who knows? The canon of Mario is all over the place. It was actually Rareware that said that the original Donkey Kong was either DK's father or grandfather. Nintendo has never actually said that. So I would assume if they were going to incorporate whatever they do in this movie, if it does incorporate Donkey Kong, and I hope it does, to kind of show his origin, I hope they clarify that there's only been one Donkey Kong. That's what I think. And that, it's the same Donkey Kong from the original game, and it's the same Donkey Kong when you get to Smash Bros. That would be cool, right? If this led to like a Nintendo cinematic universe and eventually you get to Smash Bros, that would be awesome. But again, I think it should just be the one Donkey Kong. There's no reason to confuse anything like that. Marty Man says, do you think Pink Gold Peach or Bowsette will make a cameo in this movie? Lol, JK. Have you heard of those Peach memes? Of course I've heard of all the memes, and, Bowsette will definitely not be in the movie, because Nintendo has just avoided, acknowledging that completely. I think they made one statement saying that Bowsette is definitely not canon, so I don't think they would include that. But like something like Pink Gold Peach, maybe as like a thing in the background somewhere, who knows? Doug Crane says, make it the Plumber Night. Well, I don't think they want to go in that direction, but I'm glad you've watched the Plumber Night. Yeah, I was also going to mention that because, where was that? Somebody just mentioned it. For some reason, comments keep getting deleted. Oh, here we go. Dylan Ryman says, they released the Terminator trailer today. Yeah, they did release the trailer for Terminator Dark Fate today, and they also released the teaser trailer for the new Star Trek Picard show. I was going to talk about those a little bit today, but I wanted to focus on Mario because I feel like I'm overall just a little bit more excited about what could happen with this Mario movie right now. I'm going to not be doing a live show of the Rich Alvarez show tomorrow because I'll be at Fanime in San Jose. And by the way, if anybody is going to Fanime this weekend in San Jose, I will be there. We're going to have the Nintendo meetup. It's outside on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Instead of doing like a dedicated Rich Alvarez fan meetup, we're just going to be at the Nintendo meetup. So if anybody wanted to hang out with us for like a few minutes, and come meet us, and if you want anything from us, like it's going to be me, Chris, Jackie, and some of the other members of the crew, Garrett and Derek, Sammy, Holly, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Claudia will probably be there. So if you wanted to meet any of us, we're going to be at the San Jose Convention Center for Fanime this weekend. Saturday, 1 o'clock at the Nintendo meetup. We will all be there. So come see us if you were there. Okay, I just thought I'd get that out now because I keep forgetting to mention it in these Rich Alvarez shows. So there will not be a live Rich Alvarez show tomorrow, but I will put up Matt was in town a few weeks ago and we did some commentary videos. So I'm going to put up the commentary video where we did a commentary to the Styrofoam is illegal, Styrofoam is banned video. It's a lot of fun. That will go up tomorrow in lieu of a Rich Alvarez show. All right. I'm going to read just a few more comments because this is getting a little long. Let's see here. Marty Man says, you going to talk about the Sonic movie next episode? No, I don't want to talk about the Sonic movie. I will talk about the Sonic movie again when we see a new trailer with the new character model, but there's no reason to talk about it yet. It would just be me bitching about it, Mario the M-Hat Hero says, Widemouth Super wasn't always in the title. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I don't know what the Widemouth part is, but Super, if I think I know what you're talking about. Super wasn't always in the title. Yeah, there was the old arcade game that was just called Mario Bros, where it was just a simple screen of platforming where there was pipes and the creatures were coming out of the pipes and the Mario Brothers were trying to, contain them. That was the original game. Then what we got on the original NES in 85, Mario Brothers for arcade came out in 83. Super Mario Brothers came out on the NES in 1985, and that's the game we all remember with all the levels and everything. So I think that might be what you're alluding to. I'm not sure. Anthony says, Richard, have you seen Father of the Pride yet? You're going to have to remind me, Anthony, what is Father of the Pride? Oh, the previous comment where he said Widemouth. Widemouth is a user that he was replying to. I just didn't see the @ symbol. Okay, because he didn't use one. Because now here's Widemouth's comment. Widemouth says, I always wanted to see a Mario movie that's made to be an origin story. They could have it set in Brooklyn and have him take down Wario, who was a gangster mafia leader. Again, all interesting ideas. Mario the M-Hat Hero says, after Donkey Kong was Mario Bros, which takes place in New York. Well, again, it wasn't explicitly in New York. Jojo Linka Win says, that's the thing. That's when Star Wars fan series comes out. Again, I must have... I think that's where I'm going to end the comments because I'm getting to things that don't make sense because of the delay on where I say things and where people directly reply to. He might be talking about my own Star Wars fan series that I haven't started yet or what have yous. But anyways, thank you so much for watching the Rich Alvarez show. I hope I answered enough of your guys' questions for you to feel satisfied. If I didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. Tune in next Monday. That's the next live show. And I will try to answer as many questions as I can. But, I can't spend too much time answering questions because then the episode will just go on too long. And I like to keep these under 30 minutes, at least for now, until I decide then I want to do it for an hour. Whatever. Anyways, so thank you guys so much for tuning into the Rich Alvarez show. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the news of the Mario movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, And, you know, go ahead and like and follow us on Facebook, too. Facebook.com/RMAProd. I'm trying to get that changed to Rich Alvarez, but it's been RMAProd for so long. So, Facebook.com/RMAProd. The link is also in the description. And, you know, just tell all your friends to watch the Rich Alvarez Show. And I hope you, you know, look forward to tomorrow's video of Matt and myself and Chris and Jackie talking about the Styrofoam video. And who knows, maybe there's even a No Pain, No Game coming out on Saturday as well. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye!